The question I want to ask us today is, do our principles really work? We seem to assume they do. We teach them as if they do. We teach them as if these are very, very important, but do they? I remember reading something that one of the sons of Charles and Myrtle Fillmore wrote, Lowell Fillmore, and he advised people that when they came to unity, if they found something that somehow didn't make sense to them or didn't resonate immediately, he said, that's fine. Just set it aside for the time, and later you might go back to that and see the truth that is in it. But he recommended, do what works for you. Use these principles as they work for you. What I have discovered in my years of studying in unity is that it is eminently practical and pragmatic. That is, what is the point of having principles if they don't work? If we take just another book study or learn more stuff and can deliver more metaphysical thoughts and speeches, what is the point if it doesn't accomplish anything? In the Christian scriptures, in the book of James, James is having this discussion, and James is discussed as being the brother of Jesus. And James says, okay, you say that you have faith. And what he's addressing is that there were a group of people who said, all I need is faith. If I have faith, that covers everything. If I believe, that covers everything. And James, who is one to really get to the point, one of the reasons his book is so short, said, well, even the devils believe. He said, show me your faith by your works, by what you do, by your action, by what Sky was singing about, moving, engaging. Now, I don't believe there's really an inconsistency there. I believe those things that we really believe, those things that we really have faith in, shows up in how we act, shows up in how we live. But do these principles work? I mean, when I'm thinking about the 5 basic unity principles, and there's many different principles that we teach in unity, but the first one is that there truly is only one power and one presence. And as you watch the news, if you watch the news this week, maybe you watch it every day, I want you, and here's your homework assignment, I want you to remember and see that there's only one power and one presence on everything you see on the news. That's your homework assignment. Thank you for the honesty. It's challenging, isn't it? It is challenging. And what I know from my discussion with some of my friends, we are on different parts of the spectrum in terms of political views or in terms of things regarding the social action. And what I do know is this, that if we in unity say that there's only one power and one presence, then let's live like it. And what I notice is when we live like it, it really is true. It really shows up. There really is no one and nothing against us. Chew on it. There really is no one and nothing against us. Let's say it together. There really is no one and nothing against us. How many of you felt a little hypocritical as you said that? Okay. Thank you for your honesty. Some of you who are love streaming, you may say, really? Maybe I should turn this off at this point. I think maybe he's delusional. He's suffering from one power delusion. But what we know is that truth, the presence of God, the presence of love, the presence of all that is, the presence of creativity and intelligence, that very self-livingness that propels us forth, that one power, that one presence can never be defeated. You were actually, what you really are was never born. What you really are will never die. What you really are is eternal. When you recognize that you are that, you recognize there can't be anything against me. It's impossible. As Paul said in Romans chapter 8, if God be for us, who can be against us? And as he said in Acts chapter 17, in God we live, move, and have our being. When we recognize the truth of this, we come into our own. We come into our own, and that's what I'm asking us to do. I'm not interested in playing church. I'm not interested in playing minister. What I'm interested in is really working the principles and helping all of us to awaken, and I'm including myself in that. It's a process, the waking up process. I do not promise that you'll be comfortable. What I do promise is that it is so exciting and so empowering to really discover this one power and this one presence living itself in us and as us. And that leads to the second principle, which is we are all that. We are all that self-livingness of that presence. That leads into the third principle, which is that my thoughts that I'm holding in mind, those things that I'm dwelling on, I have the power to bring about in my life, to experience that in my life. Now, things happen. Bless you. Things happen in our lives, right? I mean, a week ago, Thursday, I was exhausted. I had to just lay down. I'd been working hard through the week. I needed to just lay down for a little bit. I wanted to take a power nap. I laid down, and my wife, Olga Lucia, came in and woke me up. And I said, "Why did you wake me up?" "I just fell asleep. I'm tired. I need to rest just a little." She said, "I need to wake you up. Something has happened. I just got a phone call. Your mom has fallen." She was taken to the emergency room. And all of a sudden, my fears, you know what it's like to have those fears just suddenly come up like, oh, this is not what I wanted to happen. Have you ever had that? Where something happens and it's like, no! There's only one power, one presence. How could this happen? There's only one power, one presence. How could there be people who are black that are 2.5 times more likely to be killed by the police than me who is white? How can that happen if there's only one power and one presence? How can it happen that the Gulf states are flooded again and have lost their homes and destroyed? How can it happen as I was flying over California last night I thought, what is that? I'm thinking, what is that? I don't remember seeing black on the ground. Then I realized, oh, this was from the fire. And I see all this black. And I think about the trees and the animals, and suddenly I'm caught up in that. Really, is there only one power and one presence? Yes. Yes, there is. But there are bumps in the road. And so, my mom went through this process, and in the hospital, she was very, very weak. Couldn't walk. Went to a skilled nursing facility, and I thought, oh, what's going to happen? I know there's only one power and one presence. I'm so glad that the congregation can't see me right now because I'm a mess. Right now, I'm just feeling, I knew God was there, but I'm feeling fear, and I'm feeling all this stuff. And in the hospital, I was able to stay with my mom. Stayed there a lot. Skilled care, no visitors. So I call her up. She's a skilled care, and call her up. And this perky voice answers, and she's laughing. I'm thinking, what'd they give her? And her voice is stronger. Her voice had been very, very weak. Her voice is stronger. She's enthusiastic. She sounds like my mom from several years ago. I'm like, what? In the hospital, she could barely transfer with people helping her. And suddenly she's walking and has this positive attitude. And I'm thinking of that third principle about how what we focus on and what we orient ourselves to, how it affects reality. I think about these studies, many scientific studies done on the power of prayer in healthcare facilities. And people who are actually doing better, recovering quicker from surgery, being dismissed sooner, having less complications. People who have been prayed for. People who didn't even know they were being prayed for. So it's a blind study. It's like, what is this power that we can use? Are we capable of doing more than we think? Are we thinking that we are somehow victims? And what I found as I talked with my mom is that she didn't seem to think of herself as a victim at all. So here's a 94-year-old who's had this big surgery and a rod and cement put in, and she's walking and laughing. And I'm thinking, I've known people in their 30s and 40s that could hardly get up and motivate themselves. So what it is that we focus on, what it is that we center on, there is power in that. And that fourth principle is about connecting through meditation and prayer, that we can connect in divine mind. We can experience this shift. I can tell when I'm around people who are meditating. They are, for one thing, not as affected by outer circumstances because they've explored the inner world. They've explored that inner journey. They have connected and tapped into that power within. They're not fooled by the circumstances as easily. And if they get fooled, they can quickly come back. We teach that. We practice that in unity. Prayer, meditation, connecting with that divine mind and presence. And the fifth principle, which is what I was going to talk about last week, and thank you, Reverend Medora, for stepping in. So, put yourself in this position. Thursday night, let's say you get a call. Hey, could you take over the service Sunday? And her question was, what are you talking about? She wanted some idea of a topic. And the topic that I was proposing was, do you have your fifth with you? You know, your fifth principle. It's not enough to just talk these principles and learn these principles and be conversant and be some sort of unity principle secret agent. It's important that we live these in the world. And if you encounter challenging circumstances, when I'm at the gym and I look forward to going back, I need to get there. I go into the weight room. You know, some people avoid the weight room. They're like, I don't want to deal with those. But when you're encountering challenging things, that's when you're getting into the weight room. That's when you're ripping some new muscles. So when you encounter challenges and problems in your life, that's the time to really practice these principles and to develop those spiritual muscles. When I talk with people who are going through a rough time, I listen, I empathize, and I also give thanks for what they are experiencing in their life. They don't always know what to do with that. But I encourage them, I hope it's encouragement, by telling them, this is your opportunity to really practice the principles, to really dig in deep. We are here to live those principles, to move, to act, to live these out in the flesh. So last week was a good opportunity for me to do that, you know. Okay, can I be optimistic? Can I be upbeat? Can I be loving and cheerful in spite of everything that's happening? And yeah, it makes a difference. It makes a difference in the environment. Yesterday, I'm not going to probably take this suitcase on a trip again. It's all beat up. It's cracked up. It's got breaks in the front of it. And as I put it on the scale yesterday afternoon for them to weigh it, you know, they're looking at it. And I said, yeah, it's been around. It's kind of beat up. This has been a good suitcase. It might be its last trip. He said, they have this little form. Could you sign this form? I said, oh, you want me to sign this so that I can't come back later and say that it got damaged on the trip and hold you accountable. They laugh and say, yeah, you're right. I said, that hadn't even occurred to me. Because this got damaged on my previous trip on this airline. It hadn't even occurred to me. Now I know I can hold you accountable. We just laughed and had fun. And so later on, sometime later, I'm getting ready to go on the plane. That person that had checked me in, they're there as we're, going through the gate to get on. And she saw my name from the ticket or ID or whatever. She said, have a good trip. Have a safe trip, Timothy. And I turned to her and I said, thank you for remembering my name, and thank you. It was good to work with you, and I appreciate that. And I experienced that throughout the week. Practicing the principles work. These principles actually work. If they don't work for you, forget them. But are you trying them? I've been in recovery groups with close friends of mine. whether it's AA or Sex Addicts Anonymous or other types of 12-step groups. And, often at the end, you're joining hands. And one of the last things that they say is, it works if you work it. I would say these principles work if you work it, if you're doing something with it. It's not about just sitting back and intellectualizing about it. Well, he said there's only one power and one presence. Let me think about that. It's about actually living that, actually living these principles. And so these classes, absolute abundance. How many people here want more abundance in your life in relationships, finances, health, every area of your life? How many people here want more of that? Great, I'll see you on the class so that we can up-level this. And you who are love streaming, I'll see you on the class. I don't care if you're in Texas or Georgia or Taiwan or Egypt, Brazil. Brazil was a really big viewer group. You can join us on this, right? We have someone who joins us in a class that Sue teaches, and she's from Australia. She gets up at 3:30 in the morning to join Sue's class online. She's a day ahead. Yeah. She's joining yesterday's class while it is happening. Because Australia is a day ahead. Hey, we have a lot of great opportunities. Getting real with race. Something to help us to really move into this concept and practice of we are all one. So let's understand what's going on here. Let's look at some of these prejudices and things that we have grown up with. We have all kinds of ways to go deeper here. We invite you to do that, to live that, to practice it. Soon we'll be having faith in action. I love that name. Now, we might be trying out a new name, but I love that name, faith in action, because it's about putting feet to what you say you believe. There's a principle. Here's another principle. There's all kinds of principles. I could actually talk all day about it. So if you want to. The principle of reciprocity. Jesus taught this principle. As you give, so you shall receive. Now, it's not that you give, so you receive, but it's this principle of reciprocity that as we are continuing to give, as we are sharing our abundance, as we do that, Charles Fillmore in his book Prosperity says, there's nothing better than the power of a love offering to break the concept of fear of limitation, because suddenly we are sharing from our abundance, we experience abundance. It works if you work it. All of these principles work if you work it. So I invite you to join me in these affirmations. Please repeat after me. Where I am, God is. All of God is. Who I am, God is. All of God is. Where God is, there is abundance. Where God is, there is health and wholeness. Where God is, there is peace. Where I am, God is. And so it is. Amen.